No problem. Turn it over to Commissioner Hammond. I'm delighted to see COVID-19 on the agenda.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity. You know, the board has been receiving updates about COVID-19. The Board of County Commissioners have, and we've been given a lot of great information about it, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about it at the meeting so that the public could get a chance to hear what we're hearing. You know, as far as the COVID-19 situation stands, you know, y'all know that the hospital and health system have been communicating their numbers with us again, and we are at a point where we're seeing the most hospitalizations we've ever seen here in Lee County related to COVID-19, and unfortunately we've even seen, as we took a moment of silence this morning, some deaths in our community that have been very high profile, and deaths that we mourn, and certainly we're all joining in praying for those families. So for the last several weeks we've been talking with businesses, we've been talking with our administration here, and even with local health officials to see what resources as a county we can offer to help with the pandemic that we're facing right now. And so I'd like to ask if Mr. Harner and perhaps Chris Brady could give us an update on 3 areas. We talked about a monoclonal testing clinic, or monoclonal antibody clinic to provide some treatment, more testing, which is, we're seeing a big demand for that right now, and in our communications plan as well.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate Commissioner Hammond. Oddly, we don't talk to one another, but I've been working with staff regarding this very issue, so I agree with your timing. I think that's perfect. Love to hear some updates.
Thank you. Chris Brady?
If it's okay, I'm going to go up to the podium so I can show you some of the communication efforts that we've had.
Wonderful.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Brady for the record. What I wanted to show you today is some updates that we've made as it relates specifically to our communication plan. There's been increased desire for information on testing here in our community. So on our homepage, we've changed our headers up here. So if citizens want to get information, they can click directly on this box, which will take you to our COVID-19 landing page. Which has information specifically from the Department of Health, but it also provides a link to current testing information here in Lee County. We will continue to update this information as we get information, but if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's information here on where to get a COVID-19 test. Of the testing sites that we are aware of right now, we've created hyperlinks, so if you click on any of these, they'll take you directly to that page's website for testing information. This is curative. They're doing things nationally, but you can go in specifically into finding testing near you. And then on our page, we also provide a map of testing sites that you can put information in so that you can find out the different areas for testing. In addition to that, we are working with our social media team to put this information out onto our social media channels. Betsy Clayton is working with her Joint Information Communication team, which is PIOs throughout the county to have them boost. And we're also working with our marketing social media folks over at PTE so that on specifically the testing, we can boost our Facebook posts so that we can get further reach into our community. So those are some of the steps that we're taking right now as it relates specifically to communication, and we'll continue to work on those things throughout the rest of the week and into the weekend. Now, Commissioner, to go specifically on those other 2 areas, staff from Public Safety are working with the Florida Department of Emergency Management. The governor announced this initiative last week. The first Duval County, Jacksonville area was the first to receive or set up the monoclonal clinic. We are working with them to see about being a regional asset here in Lee County. They have a vendor who will come in and do all of that. We're finalizing the site that we would be able to set that up. We did receive notification this morning that the DEM does want to continue with Lee County in setting that site up. So we'll provide information. That is a fast-moving, fluid operation right now, but as we get more information, we'll brief the board on how quickly that's moving.
Not to put you on the spot, but what would be the best-case scenario if, I know it's very fluid and hard to break out that crystal ball, but best-case scenario to get that site up and running? Because I believe that treatment can help a lot of people.
Sure. Best case scenario, blue sky, if everything falls into the way, probably within 10 days, 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
The state is looking to move those things very quickly. So we have staff who are already in communication and working on that right now.
Okay, very good.
Mind
Yes,
if
sir.
I interject? Just don't get a chance to talk to. You and I spoke yesterday, and I had an update and spoke with the Governor's Chief of Staff, Adrian Lucas. So yes, I was informed that we are approved. Certainly, site was some issues, and happy to do that. They were very complimentary to our success in vaccinating people, working with their vendors. So we built up a great deal of political capital. So I was happy and give you all the credit in the world for that. So I'm happy to see that treatment, one of 3 prongs that we could have. And you and I were having conversations, had conversations with Dave, and been talking with Roger for a couple of weeks on this, trying to keep this as close to Lee County. I think this is an excellent opportunity for treatment, and obviously, the analogy I say, it's like thermofuel that you take. It just obviously helps in the duration being shortened, and obviously helps the person deal with it. So I'm really excited to see us pull it off, and thank you for all your hard work regarding that.
I certainly appreciate that, and I can't thank the board enough. Since the start of this pandemic here in our community, you've all been extremely supportive of all of the efforts that we've taken here within the county. So we're going to continue to move forward. But we received that notification today, so thank you.
Testing, I appreciate the map, but there seems to be a great deal of anxiety in the community. We've certainly gotten overwhelmed, and we seem to have a greater demand than we do have for testing. Appointments aren't as readily available. I was speaking with Angela Smith last night, and she had indicated that they could procure a vendor to come down to 1 to 7. I certainly think that makes a lot of sense. What I'd like to do is be offensive, let the community know we recognize this. I think the antibody treatments that we're doing, coupled with expanding testing, enables people that have that anxiety. I mean, first and foremost, if you have symptoms, please stay home. I mean, it's just really important to do so. And I know you want to know the results, but if you're running a fever and you're lost your smell, your taste, whatever. But if we can move forward with at least having those conversations, I did have several people call me up, and they were anxious because it took a couple of days to get a scheduled appointment. While we have this peak and while those resources are available, I think it's in our best interest that we try to give people as many options as possible.
Couldn't agree with you more. We've also reached out to Angela Smith from Department of Health. We are working with her and her staff not only to expand testing hours, hopefully at her clinic on Michigan Avenue, but to bring a vendor in so that we can host here through the county additional testing sites. So the same way we're working through that with Monoclonal Clinic, we're working with Department of Health on expanding testing hours as well as testing sites. So back to your question, best case scenario, all blue skies, if everything goes the way it should, we would hope that we would be able to do that in the same time frame. But I know that Angela and her team and our team here are working as fast as they can to get those resources available to our citizens.
Good deal. What do you need from us in order to get those that testing site set up? I know a lot of people are asking about, can it be at the CenturyLink Stadium? I think it's where they were used to going. They're just, and I imagine our logistics would probably be very similar to what we were using in the past. I mean, would it be quicker to set something up in a place where we've already done it? We already know how to do it there?
There are a number of places that we're looking at. That is certainly one of them. The vendors who come in are completely self-sufficient. Okay. So they will come in and work with Angela's team as well as our team to let us know if a site is acceptable for their setup. So, looking at the CenturyLink site, we need the vendor to come in and let us know. But as soon as they come in and we provide them the information on where, then we can get a confirmation that that's a site that they can make work for them.
Well, you certainly would have my full support, and I think the board's full support to reach out to them as urgently as possible and get the testing ramped up here. I know just it's a service to the community and the business owners. You know, if you have an employee who wakes up with some sniffles and they want to know if they can go to work or not, they want to go be able to get that test to know if they need to quarantine or if they don't have anything like COVID. So you all have been working so hard on this, and I thank you very much for that work.
Appreciate it. Again, appreciate the board's support.
Go ahead.
Chris, would that, if that society, if we went back to this insurance, would it be a volunteer, like a show up as you come, or is it be an appointment process?
I believe that the vendors are setting up appointment processes. So there's a number of vendors on the vendor list, but they come in and they set up the same way Curative does, which is who Lee Health has contracted with. They set the appointments up. Some of their mobile clinics, I'm not 100% sure. So we'd need to get some additional information if their mobile clinics would be walk-up or if they'd be appointment only. But when we get that information, we'll certainly brief the board.
I really, truly think sooner the better. I think, as my colleague said, it's a really important, it's a community service, but, you know, it's going to help the hospitals out. We have
Yes.
staff here from Lee and Memorial and Lee Health Systems now, and I think it's really important to get people out of the ERs from getting tested, to get them back tested and get them back home if they feel like there's symptoms, to get them, to let them know. If they already need treatment, they need to get treatment, and that next phase of that is our EMS. You know, I saw the news last night where our EMS is being utilized as hospital rooms outside of the ERs. It's going to be devastating to for service to calls. So we need to get people out of the ERs back home and getting tested somewhere else to help the whole system overall.
Yes, sir.
Ray?
It's interesting to look at the two commissioner items, and I thank you both for that. Those two issues are extremely important to us. And so, as the chairman, your work and encouraging people to chime in because of the urgency of that matter, and then looking at COVID-19, if you look at the numbers, I think we saw them, the majority of the pressure come in the system is from those that are not vaccinated. It's people's choice, but I hope they will consider that would take some pressure off the system, that's something we can control. So I encourage it on both issues, and thank you both for picking those up.
Yeah, I think, you know, again, thank you for all you're doing to try to make this happen. I think we do have a responsibility to the community, let the community know that, you know, it's their choice, but we want to try to provide as many facilities and options available to them, whether it's antibody treatments that we potentially could do, more testing, because obviously there's some anxiety associated with that. So again, being proactive to let the community know we're trying to come up with solutions in a proactive way. These all take time. So as they ramp up, we see we start to have the conversations. I think the public just doesn't realize just the logistic aspect, which you do so seamlessly and you make it perfect, and I appreciate that. And the communication plan that we do may be no different than hurricanes. We become a little complacent because numbers obviously dropped, and you know, people have you know, bad memories of doing that. I experienced this personally with inside my other company when someone in the controllers area tried to go get, and you know, literally just walked across the street, and they were like appointments, and then had to wait a couple of days. So I know that anxiety has been shared with our community, but I can't thank you enough for doing this. I don't know exactly, you know, Commissioner Hammond said that, but you know, you have the full support here at across the dais. You know, let's do whatever we can do to secure the antibody treatment. Let's do what we can to get testing up and giving people multiple things. And during this campaign, if we could just remind people all the various options to get vaccinated. Again, it's their choice, and I will always be siding on that issue of choice. I don't necessarily think it's anything other than a choice, and it's really your personal decision. So, but thank you for all you did.
Again, want to thank the board for all of their assistance, and I'd be remiss in saying, you know, our one organization of culture, it takes a lot of hands. So on behalf of the county manager's team and the rest of the organization, thank you. They've been working hard to get these things put into place for our community. So thank you on their behalf as well.
Thank you. Any other questions?